Hello, 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 and welcome to our live panel discussion on hybrid cloud video streaming. In the next 45 minutes, we'll be discussing a trend in video delivery that we clearly see emerging, where one size does not fit all, as usual. So we think future-proof architectures have to consider both cloud and on-prem technology in the right combination in order to be cost-effective and scalable at the same time. So we'll look at the pros and cons of both sides for various use cases, and we'll talk about whether and why a hybrid cloud approach may be the best. My name is Andy Waltenspiel, and I'm excited to be here, your host and moderator of this panel today. In my day job, I'm advising Tier 1 operators and vendors on innovation topics, go-to-market strategy, and thought leadership. A few quick words on housekeeping before we start. We'll have a Q&A at the end. Just send us your question using at any time the Q&A widget you see at the bottom of your screen. And of course, this session is being recorded and you'll get an email in the coming days to access the recording. Let's get started. So when I announced this panel on LinkedIn last week, I titled it Portugal 3, Germany 1. That's not a soccer final standing, although my friends from Portugal would love that. Let's see, next chance, pretty soon, I guess. No, it's because all my three speakers here today are from Portugal. So let's bring them on screen. Olá, todos. We have here Miguel Jardim from Altice Portugal. Miguel is the head of TV engineering and operations at Altice Portugal. Hello. Olá.
Hello.
We'll have Sérgio Delgado from Velocix, product manager.
Hello.
And João Tavares, product manager at Velocix as well. Hello, boa tarde. And no, we're not going to do it in Portuguese. We'll stick to English. Welcome, everyone, and welcome, dear, at home in front of your screens. Let's do a quick round of introductions. Let's go around the table. And maybe, Miguel, if I ask you to go first, tell us, please, a bit about you, your role, and also about Altice Portugal's video offering under the Mio brand.
Okay, nice to meet you, Andy, and Sérgio and João, and everyone that is viewing this webinar. So, I'm Miguel. I'm head of TV services in Altice Portugal, a team that manages and creates, manages, operates several TV services, starting from broadcast, from DTT, DTH, where we have a considerable footprint, and going to IPTV since 2008, and now a bit more enthusiastic and with a growing footprint on OTT, both in set-top boxes and mobile. So we covered all bases, basically, in terms of TV services. Also working with broadcasters, local broadcasters, and basically that's it. So it's the full house of TV services that we have to deal every day.
Perfect. And I see it's fantastic weather in Lisbon. You're on the rooftop of the Altice building.
Yes,
it's like it.
So it's always good weather here, at least in my background. But yes, today it's a live streaming from the outside.
Perfect. Thank you, Miguel. And Sérgio, a few words about you and Velocix, please.
Yeah, so I'm a product manager at Velocix, as I said, based in Portugal. I'm managing Velocix products for Cloud VR solution, Origin and Recordings Manager, and also Velocix Analytics product. About Velocix, so Velocix is a leading provider of content delivery, recording, and ad tech software for video services provider. And it works with many of the biggest names in streaming video. Yeah.
Thank you. Muito obrigado. And last but not least, João.
Hello, so I'm a product manager for hardware and cloud platforms at Velocix. Basically, my mission is to leverage our software solutions with the best hardware and cloud platforms available. My role is not only to ensure the smooth functioning of our platforms, but also to work closely with our technology partners and to continually push the boundaries of innovation and efficiency, and at the end, offer the best cost-effective products and providing real value to the customers. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks for these introductions. So hybrid cloud, before we jump in, it's of course a big topic. It's a hot topic at the moment. We heard about it in the last trade shows. We'll hear again about it next week in AngaCom, that's happening in Cologne. If you're there, come join us. Velocix will have a booth. I will be there as well. But before we jump into the real topic, let's set the scene and talk about the benefits of cloud and on-prem, because each of them has its pros and cons. And maybe Miguel, let's start with you. You have, like I say, everything in your park. I tend to call it a zoo, right? Many things to manage. So from your point of view, what are the key strengths on cloud? And what are the key strengths of on-prem? And where does it make sense most for you in your current setup?
Okay, perhaps to start that topic. So we should also define here a timeline, because in the past, so operators, and we are not any exception for that. So operators tend to have everything on-prem and build up on top of the infrastructure all their needs and platforms. So we are not as an exception, as I said. So we started out from prem, and now the timeline is reaching a point that there are many and good cloud solutions, either in terms of infrastructure only or in SaaS models. So this is a path. Advantages of one of the other. On-prem, for operators at least, we have control. So that's a big part of having the everything under your control, which is good for growing. When you have to fine tune, when you have to work on new features and bring new things to your customer base. So that's a very important part. For the cloud, of course, that scaling is one of the key features or the key benefits of having everything on cloud. So you can scale easily, but the point there is you have to have everything fine-tuned to be able to scale easily. So maybe in between, and this is the hot topic here, in between lies the balance. So having a hybrid approach is perhaps a good way to go. I don't know if it will be 100% cloud-based in the future, near or not future, but now I think the trend is to going to a hybrid approach, either for a fallback or to scale. Well, whatever are the reasons, I think that's the balance today that operators are now, at least from our perspective, are now embracing, and I think it's the good way to go.
One topic, of course, that we also heard, it was a big topic at NAB in Las Vegas earlier last month, is the cost of things, right? So we have a lot of energy cost of living crisis, inflation. So the cost of operating stuff suddenly is more important than it might have been a year ago or two. So that's also something we will look at.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
But thank you for this first. We'll come back to it. João, from your perspective, what's your perspective on cloud versus on-prem? What are the pros, the cons?
Yeah, so generally what is unpredictable or difficult to estimate needs high flexibility. And we strongly believe that the use cases that need high flexibility is where cloud solutions could leverage more value, specifically in video streaming industry compared with the on-premises. And that's one of the reasons why most used strategies for hybrid cloud today are cloud bursting, where basically we use public cloud to temporarily expand the capacity of on-prem when it exceeds its limits. And this is particularly useful for applications like video streaming with unpredictable usage patterns or during peak periods of demand. The other usual strategy that we are seeing with hybrid cloud is data tiering, where infrequently accessed content is stored in public cloud, while frequently accessed content is stored in the private cloud or on premises. And this approach reduces the overall costs and improves performance by ensuring that the most frequent access content is available on-prem, ensuring the best performance, the control, and the cost-efficient streaming. And infrequently accessed content, so the long tail, for example, is stored on the cloud, not using data center resources and space, and basically where the probability of content to be retrieved is low and compensates the higher egress costs that we see on the current cloud pricing model. In the other way, for the on-prem, the natural evolution that we see is by keeping pushing to offer the most cost-effective way for predictable and high-volume video streaming, where the on-prem solution could be extremely optimized and to use all the resources available in the most efficient way. Of course, on-prem it's always less agile due to its physical nature. That directly depends from a logistic chain to get everything available up and running. But and that also requires usually capex commitments on the business side. But basically, it's the natural evolution that we see on-prem side.
The good thing about the capex commitments is you know them, and sometimes we saw surprises of, oh, that's your bill from Amazon. I didn't expect that. So yeah. we're going to talk about that as well. Sérgio, as we saw in the slide when you introduced Velocix, you work with the big boys of the industry, tier 1 operators. So have you seen them adopting already on-prem and cloud at the same time? Is hybrid becoming a reality, or is it still a buzzword?
No, it is a reality. So it's not just a buzzword. As Miguel said, I mean, there's a kind of a more conservative nature and culture to an operator, which is, I mean, it's natural, right? But some operators are adopting on newer projects. They're adopting a cloud-first strategy, right? So they understand that they want to fully embrace what the core cloud concept brings. Ranging from scalability, availability, even time to market. I mean, it depends, and it depends on the challenge. And we do see a trend to streamline operations, and coming to the previous point, which is more alignment with revenue, aligning more directly the revenue with the subscriber growth. I know there are some challenges there, but you can actually align it better. So you don't need to do a huge capital expenditure for a project, because you are allowed to pay as you grow or adjust your business model as it's moving along. Of course, there are other operators that are moving at slower paces, a bit more conservative. They do have an instinct to stick to on-prem solutions. However, as Miguel said, I mean, this is not like we see some indications and opening up on customers, even the ones that we believe like they're most conservatives. And we, like 1 year ago, we discussed with some customers that said, well, I don't even want to talk about cloud in our meetings. I'm not literally quoting, but very close to it. Okay. And suddenly something, there's an effect and something changes. And because they fully understand, I mean, I don't need to move everything to cloud, right? It's not like, shifting away from on-prem, losing control about everything, as Miguel was saying. I mean, it's very important to have control. So they do focus on the value of the things that you can carve out from the cloud. And I think we mentioned a couple of them. Like, I mean, you may have data center space restrictions, power constraints, hassle in your operations with a lot of failures, depending on hardware failures and all that. I mean, obviously there's a cost to it, but you also offload. You delegate all of that to a service that you're paying, and provides you a very high quality of service, and probably a higher availability that you had before. And I mean, obviously this also You can also do this in phased approaches. It doesn't mean that you need to move everything at once, everything at the same pace. So you can start with trials and phasing out. And definitely hybrid is the key, right? As Miguel also said, and you said, Andy, we want to adopt hybrid cloud architectures as well on our architectural designs in Velocix products. We want to combine best of both worlds, right? The on-prem and cloud. Not going to, trying our best not to have that surprising bill at the end of the month. We have bitten more than we can chew in terms of of pricing and all that. But yeah, that's we're seeing that, and we're working actively with customers in deploying some hybrid capabilities and functions on the cloud, because that's what starts making sense for them to focus, increasing the efficiency on what's important for them in terms of service, in terms of content on-prem, and offloading some of the functions, could be control plane functions, could be even content that is not as valuable for them. They move it to a different cost-based model, and they start adopting and changing also their business models accordingly. Okay,
so let's look at some very specific use cases that I think every operator on the planet has to deal with, and that's VOD, Timeshift, PVR, and live. Let's start with the easiest, or presumably the easiest, so video on demand. So how would specifically VOD benefit from hybrid cloud? What part goes in the cloud? Which part stays on-prem? Why does it make sense? Maybe Sérgio, if you can elaborate a bit, and then we go to Miguel, how he does it. Let's see if you both are of the same opinion.
Sure. Obviously, we discussed this. We checked the market and the industry, and the value of the content varies over time, right? The most recent content, most popular content has the highest value, and so you want to make sure that you are controlling that value, and you are controlling your resources, and you're controlling the service around that content. And what we see is that that premium content, most value, most recent content tends to remain on-prem, so that you have better control of it. You can provide a better service to your customers. It's close to you. You feel more comfortable having it. While when you look, at and this is one of the challenges with long tail, and then you have a huge catalog, of assets that are very rarely, if any, seen any time. But you still have to have them, right? You have to have them. So these are good candidates for you to move them to a cloud infrastructure. So if you think about, it's difficult to price and pinpoint prices on these things, but if you look at the cost, the opportunity cost of having your on-prem resources being occupied by stale content or old content or really unpopular content, it means that you either need to scale up your on-prem infrastructure, or you're not utilizing the resources. It's like having a huge CPU and then you just use 5% of it, because the other 95% is just there in case someone every 6 months wants to use it, right? So we believe that offloading that to cloud storage and streaming it from cloud or on-prem, it's very unlikely that it's going to be streamed. So you can do it any of those ways. So it is, I think it's easier because it's offline content. It doesn't have the challenges of live content, so it is easier to do, and it's more predictable. So yeah, I think I do agree. It is one of the good examples where advantages from hybrid cloud approach can be used. And also, if you align this with also intelligent systems and analytics, to understand a bit better on your system, you can even improve on this thread.
Okay, Miguel, you mentioned. Thank you, Sérgio. Miguel, you said, like many operators, you come from everything was on-prem in the past. Can you tell us a bit of where are you in your journey, specifically for VOD right now? What have you done? What's coming?
Okay, so actually, yes, I agree that VOD is perhaps the quick win to have the hybrid or cloud approach. So you can look at VOD in two different parts. First, the production of that VOD, where you receive contents and you have to transcode it and prepare all the assets for all the profiles that you have to distribute. Then you have the distribution. Yes, cloud can bring you several advantages. Well, I'm removing the price tag out of this conversation right now. Let's just look into the technology perspective and the value perspective, because otherwise we'll always mentioning that. But so VOD can benefit a lot from capacity, processing capacity in the cloud, and also bringing some AI on top of that, so we can have some value, added value on top of those assets. Then you prepare the content, you prepare all the profiles, 10 or 20 different profiles for all your platforms, and then the distribution. So the distribution depends a bit on the kind of distribution we have. So we have our own Velocix CDN. So distribution is basically local, let's say. So we have public CDN also for a specific usage, but the distribution is local. So we have to bring all that assets down and make them available to all our customer base. And yes, but you can benefit a bit also in the distribution from the cloud. Okay, so perhaps a more hybrid approach, but I think for sure VOD is the best use case for starting out, because it's not live. So first and foremost reason, it's not live. So you can manage time as you wish. You can manage all the workflow as you wish, and you can prepare all your workflows, both the production and the distribution, to manage that cloud approach on the VOD. So yes, I agree that it's a good use case. And perhaps is the best starting point for the video part. Okay, for the video part, I think it's the best starting point. Just let me go back a bit, because I think Sérgio mentioned the fact that many usages of the cloud can start out with non-critical applications, let's say. So everything that does not impact the customer. So if you look at the customer and you think of quality of service, so everything you do, it has to be with that in mind. So you cannot just move around and try and, okay, it's not working, let's remove. No, you have to keep your quality of service stable and good and at high level. So everything you do, you have to do it very, very quietly and seamlessly for the customer. So you can start out with things that are not critical for presenting content to the user. Speaking of video, so you start with business part, with things that are not impacting the experience. And VOD, you can also do that, because you can prepare it offline. You can have everything offline. You don't. That's a key point here, is the offline. Okay.
Thank you, Miguel. João, from an architectural point of view, what are some of the key challenges to make that happen? It sounds easy. Okay, this part here, that part there, done. Is it that easy? And we can move on, or no? Okay, tell us.
We can move on, but I think the main challenge here is the integration complexity between the cloud and the on-prem infrastructure. So we are talking about an ecosystem that in video streaming specifically, that have many components. And in the hybrid cloud, we will have public cloud, possibly private clouds, on-premises infrastructure, and potential third-party services. So this can be challenging, especially if different components use different APIs, protocols, or data formats. But also, we cannot never forget that this hybrid approach brings new technical challenges on the security and compliance to ensure that all data is properly secured. And we must make sure that in the end, we have full control, like Miguel is always highlighting, over the end-to-end hybrid solution. So we believe that to achieve the perfect balance between on-prem and cloud, the algorithm on the joint between these two worlds should use the right criteria and decide consistently and effectively in order to offer the best hand-to-hand performance or quality of service, like Miguel is saying, balancing at the same time, and also important, in the most efficient way, the costs in the end.
Yeah. In the end, it's like power is nothing without control. So you need to have the right systems to measure and take decisions, ideally in real time. Okay, so that was the easy part, VOD. Let's take one step up and say Timeshift video / network PVR. So what's the business case for that? Is that as easy? Is it a bit more difficult? And why? So hybrid cloud architectures for network PVR and Timeshift. Sergio, what's your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, we see it also depends. We see it is very similar to the VOD use case, right? There's a huge difference, of course, as Miguel said. I mean, you don't, the preparation of the nPVR, I mean, there's no real preparation. It's all done, you know, on the Cloud VR platform, on the origin, from the live stream, you create the assets. But we still, I mean, we're discussing this with some customers. This is where, you know, the different pains and the different jobs to be done in each customer, what are the challenges ahead, come in the mix. As Miguel said, and I agree, if you have the CDN capacity to deliver everything, why not use it, right? If it's, you know, we're talking here on popular versus unpopular, you wanna be able to use this CDN capacity that you have. You want to use that. You don't want to go into excessive costs in streaming from a public cloud if you have a high capacity CDN platform as Mayo has. And but still, there are other factors in, not just the delivery, the storage, for example. And you can tap into cloud storage just for storing, and we can do a similar thing as we can do similar to VOD. So we can move long tail content or older content as it ages. We know that, you know, nPVR content, like 90% or more than that, is consumed in the first, you know, 3, 4, even more than 90, but it's consumed in the first couple of days, 2, 3, 4 days. Miguel probably knows this way better than I from his data. And then the other content, you still need to keep it because, you know, it's part of your service, it's part of your offer, right, to your customers. You have a retention period of 30 days, 60 days, 1 year, depends. I mean, there are customers that made a decision some time ago to do it like forever, which is forever is a very long time, right? And with the bit rates going up, and well, you know, it's probably, I mean, it's difficult decisions, very ambitious decisions, brave decisions, that let me say, and this could limit, you know, the amount of storage that you use, the density that is required on your on-prem platforms may constrain, and will definitely constrain in the mid run, your ability to scale up and grow at the pace that you want or you ambition on onboarding new subscribers, new customers. Because when you're doing that, you also need to scale up that storage, and you will start getting bottleneck, and you start also getting constrained there. Again, depending on the retention period, depending on the quotas that you're providing and offering. So moving just the storage could be an interesting option for nPVR, because you can still pull it and stream it from your CDN, you know, to save costs on streaming, but you can also free up space locally. I mean, locally, just for the, you know, most frequent data, most frequent content for nPVR, you know, which is the most important, the more popular, the one that will most likely generate more calls to your contact center if something goes wrong with that content, and move long content away from it, even if you still stream it. I mean, you can stream it from both directly the cloud or the CDN, but you can still keep your costs down, avoiding those egress costs. And even if some of the content suddenly becomes popular, you can still cache it at the CDN, all that. So yeah, it follows, you know, there are clear parallels between video on demand, but you can address it slightly different to adjust, you know, to the way that you need it to.
Okay. Miguel, do you have the data ready that Sergio mentioned? So how quickly do people typically watch what they recorded in nPVR? Do you have a feeling for that? Is it 90% the first couple of days?
I would say I don't have the numbers here about the viewership of the recordings, but what I know is that there is a big chunk of recordings that is never watched, okay, which is an issue. So that is something that we have to struggle a bit with, that because it's storage that we are using that is not actually used by customers. So I don't have the numbers for that, but yes, I would say that when people want to watch, they watch it in the first few days of recording, or never. Basically, you are in the extremes. Regarding this the nPVR and catch up. So basically, for us, we see it. So we have our origins. They address several usages like catch-up, like nPVR, like VOD, and also live. So all the origins address all these components of the service, and we have them on-prem. Okay, so this for us, this is a pure on-prem approach so far. We haven't even thought on moving this to the cloud so far. Okay. It's not just a question of cost. Of course, because we have invested in this platform that we have, and we have the control and we have the knowledge for that. So that's also an important part, is also to have the knowledge and control and the knowledge walk a bit together, and we have the good knowledge of managing these origins that we have today. It's tricky, but it's something that we haven't considered on moving to the cloud so far. Not saying that it won't happen in the future, but so far I think it's the approach that we have, and we'll keep for some time in the future. But it's because of also all these topics that we haven't moved yet or considered yet to go into the cloud. Okay, so
that's perfect. If there's no pain, then don't change it, right?
Yeah, I think that's the point. When you have João mentioned, so when you have an ecosystem that is composed of tens of pieces, so you have to fine tune all those pieces. And if I look with attention to all the ecosystem, it's more than 40 different pieces. Okay, from databases to backend to whatever you name it, we have it. So we don't want to destabilize something that we have under control. Okay, that's why I mentioned the quality of service, the service perspective. So if you start out with the customer and what the customer sees, we don't want to disturb that. Only improve. Okay. So if we can improve going to the cloud, for sure we'll do that. Okay. But we need to go baby steps in all the components. There are some components that make all the sense on moving them to other platforms, cloud-based or hybrid. But for catch-up and the origin part, I think it's something that we'll keep under our wings for some more time at least.
Sounds good. João, even from discussion with other operators, the rules, even from legislation, is not the same in all the countries. There are some, like in Germany, there's unique copy, right? Means every customer needs to have his unique copy. It's not just a pointer. Other countries have similar regulations. So it will depend on where are you, in which countries do you operate, where do you store, how does it work? So what are some of the critical aspects to really make this work in a hybrid cloud architecture?
Yeah, so the legal part for sure, different countries, different laws. So that's one of the critical aspects. And for sure, for some countries, it will be easier to move along with hybrid cloud solutions. and in the others, due to the current law, it will be not the best use case, or the business case will be not so positive on that topic. I also believe that one of the critical aspects will be, for sure, performance and latency. On video streaming, it's basically one of the main KPIs. So hybrid cloud architectures may introduce additional latency due to the data transmission between different components in different locations. So this can impact performance, especially for applications that require low latency, such as video streaming, and like our case, right? Yep. So also the other critical aspect, and that we already touched a little bit on that, it's the cost management, and because currently the cloud pricing or the cloud solution pricing models are really, really complex. It's not really something about just having just one variable and we quickly estimate and it's more or less precise. So they have, all the cloud providers today provide a complex equation, and makes very hard to predict and anticipate with precision what will be the costs to support the solution, especially when dealing with multiple vendors and services at the same time. And it can be challenging to balance that costs and performance, while ensuring that each component of the hybrid cloud end-to-end environment is being used effectively. So, and that's one of the many reasons why also Velocix developed the CDN broker solution. So it's also due to that specific problem that we see today on the cloud model pricing and the estimation difficult.
So tell us a few sentences, since you mentioned it. What does the cloud broker do? Or CDN broker?
What? The CDN broker, yeah. So the CDN broker tries to deal specifically with that managing different cloud providers with different cloud price, and just trying to choose consistently and effectively the best solution for that specific use case that we are seeing now in real time. So, for example, you need to expand your capacity in terms of CDN. So for this specific use case and this specific growth rate that we are seeing on the capacity, what are the best solutions to escalate temporarily the CDN capacity, and so on. So, and because the price model is so complex, we really need that specific help with the CDN broker, for example.
Okay, good. So we talked about VOD, we talked about nPVR, Timeshift, catch up. Let's go back to our opening, Portugal 3, Germany 1. So let's assume there is a soccer game. It's the World Cup final. You're leading 3-1. We need to still kick 3 goals. Everybody's in front of their TV. That's the nightmare in terms of scaling if you're only on-prem, of course. So VOD is easy. Timeshift is peanuts. So big live events, big audiences, lots of pressure. QoS, I don't want any buffer sign during the World Cup while my friends on cable or on satellite already shout goal. Let's not even talk about latency. So João, how do you see hybrid cloud architecture working for that? Is it even more important to talk about QoS, and do I have to take into account other things than just looking at VOD and nPVR?
Yeah, so currently we believe that the natural next step for live streaming solutions, it's really the hybrid cloud, because in terms of cost management and quality of services for subscribers, especially for that kind of events, and trying to avoid quality problems linked to the capacity constraints of the on-prem during fast grow and viewership. And we strongly believe that hybrid cloud can improve quality of experience, especially important for premium live sporting events. Like I think it's one of the best use cases for the hybrid cloud CDN, particularly for live streaming. With hybrid cloud CDNs, an on-premise CDN is used for regular or high predictable traffic demands, and we can minimize costs using that. And cloud caches are activated during that major event, sporting event. And by using cloud caches for traffic bursts, operators can take advantage of on-demand scaling and flexibility of the cloud, while also minimizing the streaming costs by reducing the scale of the on-premises platform, migrating that usual margin of safety that we use today have on-prem capacity to cloud. So this is also a greener and more efficient, energy efficient approach, okay? By just using the cloud to support surges in demand, let's say the overall egress costs are also constrained. Naturally, managing the activation of the cloud caches is critical, and this is where the intelligent systems like AI, and Miguel referred that, and analytics are fundamental to the success of this solution, specifically hybrid CDN or hybrid cloud CDN approach.
Okay. By the way, thank you. Dear audience, if you have any questions, send them to us now. We'll have a few more questions here, and then we'll get to yours. So if you want to ask questions to anyone, audience Q&A, then put your questions in here. We'll get there. But before we go to the Q&A, we'll have a few more questions also to Miguel. So you said on the Timeshift and nPVR, you're full on-prem. How are you dealing with live? Are you hybrid already? Parts in the cloud? Getting there? What are the challenges?
So for the live part, it's where all fine-tuning and all expertise come together, and you need to have everything working perfectly. So mainly because you don't have time. So that's the worst part of that. So if I usually say that, so imagine that you are walking in the park and you have a cliff. If you are walking in the park, if you have VOD, you are in the safe side. If you go to Timeshift, you're getting to the edge. If you are in live, you are in the edge of the cliff, okay? You're on the edge of the cliff, and a small breeze can put you down, okay? So that's live streaming, and sports events is sometimes that small breeze that can bring you down down the cliff. So that's the challenge of doing live streaming, is you have to have everything fine-tuned. Even with latency, you have to be able to not delay very much from other platforms and other competitors. But so we have, as I said before, we have a public cloud for streaming or as a fallback. But today we still use our own capabilities and platforms to cope with those big events. It's challenging, yes, it's very challenging. But as I said, this is a matter of control. And actually, as we have so many pieces, we have the backend. It's not the having live is mainly about the rebuffering, avoiding rebuffering. But you have to be able to keep a very good quality of service. You have to a good quality of image, because sports events are very demanding on that, on the encoding, even on the encoding side. So that's why we, in the past, for example, we have introduced a GVC, which it's challenging also. It fulfills the goal of reducing bandwidth consumption, but also introduces also other challenges along the chain, from the head end to the set-top boxes, to be able to cope with that protocol. So it's very challenging, and for now we have it. We keep it also under our control, with cloud fallbacks, but mainly under our control with Velocix CDN. So it's managing that part. Well, it's challenging, as Velocix also knows. It's very challenging because ideally we would like to have a server that could cope with 2 terabits of firepower, but that's not possible. So we have to change server, we have to offload servers, and that's very, very challenging to be able to keep everything flowing without any glitch to the customer. with everything flowing in behind the curtain.
Yeah. Do you think that will change in the near or mid-term? That you say, okay, today you say you have the control, that's why you put it on-prem. What needs to happen so it makes more sense to put more into the cloud?
Well, so first, latency and performance is something that is very important. For example, if you have a few 100 milliseconds or 200 milliseconds delay because you have to go to the cloud for some kind of service, it can impact the experience. So you have to deal with that kind of challenges to be able to be confident enough to have your service based, at least this critical part, have it based on the cloud. Okay, that's I think it's something that is starting to build up. Operators are now, as Sérgio and João mentioned, operators are now more confident on using on new projects using cloud based services. I think that will increase considerably because that I think the main reason is people are gaining confidence in bringing that to the cloud. Also, they are getting also some more control and knowledge of and how to work hybrid approaches, how you can put things working on the cloud and also on-prem, because you can have a piece on the cloud, you have another piece of the puzzle, you have it on-prem, so you have to manage all these different boards on your ecosystem, and you have to learn how to move them, the pieces along those boards, either in the cloud or in on-prem, and that is happening already. That's something as Sérgio started to say, it's not something that will happen in the future. It's already happening. It will continue for sure because confidence is increasing, knowledge is increasing. Things are getting simpler. I think making a seamless experience, both for the operator and also for the end user, but for the operator, being seamless in terms of operation is very important. So you have to be that simple. So you can work with a solution that in the end it doesn't matter if it's cloud-based or on-prem. So you just have to make it work perfectly, regardless of its location.
Okay, thank you, Miguel. And Sérgio, what do you see from your other customers? Do they all still remain mostly on-prem for the reasons mentioned by Miguel? Do they take a different view? Where is the industry heading? Or where is it already?
I think Miguel touched a very, the key word is going to be confidence, right? And up to, Mail, so Mail launched the service like 16 years ago, a little bit above that. It's 16 years of testing, growing knowledge, trying, validating, retesting, making mistakes. Miguel, allow me to say this, right? Everybody, learn from mistakes, making mistakes, improving, getting a better service, all of that, getting scared, we're really close to the edge a couple of times, that's too close to the cliff, adrenaline rush, all of that. It's 16 years or more than that, right? But since they launched, of knowledge building, all that. So moving to cloud is not going to happen in like 3 months. So obviously every time there's a new technology, a new trend, everybody says, oh, this is going to be the future, everybody jump to it. Well, it's going to take some time. Like, we see about artificial intelligence and deep learning and machine learning, all these algorithms exist like dozens of years ago, right? The data is now to train all these algorithms, but it's not right. We're making a lot of, now long times have passed, very many years have passed, and now it's where we see, some interesting and relevant scenarios. So building this confidence, they build the confidence from their platform like 16 years ago, and they're still building and still growing the knowledge, which I believe happens with all operators, right? With all our customers. So I think this is a key part on, trying some things, moving some of the components to cloud, growing the knowledge on the teams as well. And I mean, it's not just our customers. Velocix, the same thing. So we're also making this path, right? We're making all this evolution. Trying out, learning mistakes, learning, improving, and building this confidence where we know we can predict, yeah, you can do that safely. It's going to be, you can do that change safely. It's not going to cause any glitch because we've done it like 50 times, 100 times, 500 times. We know how to do it. We dominate that. There's no magic behind the scenes for that. For some of the things that happen in cloud, there may be something, okay, how does this magic work, right? What's the sorcery behind all this? Until we, build the confidence and get all of that done, and as part of our daily operations. Now, one of the things that I usually like to do is, reverse the problem and think about the motivation. So we touched about the live event, right? The soccer. So if you think about the peak traffic during, the Germany 3-1, particularly when there was the third goal from Portugal, right? Everybody was crazy and joining the match. So you probably have a peak to mean ratio like 5x or 6x. I mean, the peak is really, really, really 6 times higher than the normal streaming would be. So think about, you have to dimension your platform for that peak for 2 hours. And then you have to wait for the next event, which you have to wait for the next Portugal-Germany 3-1, which can take at least 1 week to happen again. And, it's challenging. Think about, what can I do so that my cost can be constrained to 1 day or those 2 hours. If it can't be 2 hours, maybe 1 day. If it can't be 1 day, can I constrain it just to, 1 week or 1 month just to prepare for that instead of the entire year be prepared for, just a couple events or just for the Olympic Games, during the Olympic Games, and it's not 24/7. So I think that is the motivation that will push for, trying and going for this confidence and building up, these use cases. I'm not saying, my intention is not saying, yeah, we'll be there. Don't worry, we'll do it for every use case. No, I'm not saying that. But I agree, we need to test it, we need to try it, we need to provide, we need to improve and give customers the products and the tools for them to make this path, help them make this path, and prove whether this is viable or not. I do believe that a lot more that we're doing today is viable, exploring the cloud, but obviously we need to look at the latencies, quality of experience, the service, all of those being factored in. But there's a huge motivational aspect there, and if we think about something that João also mentioned before, the greener of streaming, right? Making streaming greener and all that. I mean, there's a lot of trees going down because of the, all the deployments and the capacity that we need to pre-provision and power consumption and all that. And if we think about that, it's even a bigger motivation to, at least for us, to keep evolving the technology, the systems, the hybridness, and this capacity of reutilizing and getting better out of the higher density and getting more out of the systems, minimizing the footprint and minimizing the operational costs.
Absolutely. So I really like, Miguel, when you said your analogy. You walk in the park, that's easy with VOD. Then you get to the cliff where it's nPVR. And what you're then doing since 16 years is you dance on the cliff edge, right? And it might be like in Algarve, so the stuff already crumbles a little bit and you're still dancing, and you might even close an eye.
But as Sérgio said, we make mistakes and sometimes we fail.
That's fine.
Well,
but comparing to what he said, what just Sérgio said, okay, you can save cost a lot if you dimension just for the peak, and then you can reduce. But if you don't have the confidence, it means like dancing blindfolded. And you first need to learn how to dance blindfolded, or take off the blindfold. And that's probably discussions with these gentlemen here will help and gain confidence, maybe build a little, sell a little, try a lot before you have buffering on your 3-1 versus Germany, which you want to enjoy in full beauty Of course.
So basically, we are in the cockpit, and we need to know all buttons, what they do, and what the function is. So
Right.
after that, we can turn on the automatic pilot, and let's go. No problem.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We're reaching the end of time. I'm sure there would be a lot more questions on how do we make it green? How do we measure CO2 footprint of on-prem versus cloud? How do we optimize it? Cost, sustainability, QoS, confidence, lots of questions. We have more webinars coming up. So thank you, the three of us. Can we get them on screen, please, again? Thank you, Miguel. Thank you, João and Sérgio. Muito obrigado.
Thank you, Andy. It's always a pleasure to be
evening.
with you.
Yes, thank you. And dear audience, you'll get the recordings in a few days. If you want to learn more, go join us at Anga.com. And if you have questions for Sérgio or João, then send them an email and you'll learn more. It was a pleasure of having you here with us today. Goodbye, boa tarde, and see you soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Goodbye. Bye, everyone. Cheers.